If we stop trying to prove to our friends and family that we're worth it, if we stop trying to prove to God that we're worthy of his love, if we stop trying to prove it and we give it up, that means it might be at risk. What if God doesn't show up? That's scary. And so we don't want to do that. We don't want to let it go, and we just want to control it. I'm doing this so well. I'm doing that so well. But this is a parable of trust. It's giving up control. It's saying, I'm fully trusting the Lord. My friends, I know that so many of us are so tired. We're so tired of trying to make it happen. You are exhausted. You're tired of being angry. You're tired of not forgiving. You're tired of trying to pray so many hours. You're tired of just trying to get sober. You're tired of fighting all of your bad dreams. You're tired, and you're trying to find new things to do, and you're trying to control it all. And what this is saying here, if the kingdom is about us, God's saying, listen, the seed is gonna grow. The kingdom within you is growing, it's germinating, it's growing. God is doing a work. So maybe just for a second, take a load off. Amen. Give it up. Friends, you are not any more beloved, any more free the more you do the good things. You're not any more less beloved or good or free the less you do something. You are deeply beloved. This is why the Sabbath is so important. Because it's a practice weekly where we step ourselves aside and say, it's not about what I do and what I can produce and how I can prove it, but it's about submitting myself to God and what he's doing, and I'm going to put myself aside. This is why silence in prayer is so important. Sometimes we jibber-jabber our mouths so much in prayer, trying to force something to happen when God is just saying, step back, look beneath the soil. The seeds are growing. Take it easy. Just listen. Listen to the soil. Look at it. Observe it. See what's happening. Silence in prayer is one of the most important things we can implement into our prayer life. It's giving up our power. So what I'm going to have us do for a moment is we're going to practice being silent. And I want us to just try for 2 minutes what it's like to be silent. To not try and control your prayers. To not try and force God to do what you think he should do. But to just see what he says about you. And so we're just going to sit for a few minutes, and it's going to be hard. Silence, just really quickly in teaching, is a practice. It's something you have to learn. It's a muscle you have to flex. But it's something that Jesus did, and it's part of what I believe us being vulnerable and trusting in God is. So I'm going to zip it for a few minutes, and we're just going to see what God does in silence. For some of you, that was a really sweet few moments. For others of you, that was entirely miserable and really difficult. But for all of you, God is stirring inside of you. And you could be at a lot of places. You could be just the stalk, maybe the head, maybe the fur, the full kernel. Maybe the grain is ripe and it's time to harvest something beautiful. We all are in different places of this growth. But God is doing something inside of us. So I'm pleading with you to let go of trying to control it. If you have feelings of pain and grief and hurt, stop trying to control it. Let go. Feel it. Lean into it. There's a God who bleeds and a God who weeps. Let go of trying to control it. Your prodigal son or sister or brother or daughter or friend. It's time to let it go. God is doing a work underneath the soil. There will come a time for harvest. But we have to trust that God is doing the work. So silence, Sabbath are so important in that. They're ways that will help us learn to let go. And so the reason I keep bringing those up is those are spiritual formation practices. They're ways in which God is trying to teach us how to let go. So by practicing silence on a regular basis, by practicing Sabbath on a regular basis, it will help us learn how to let go. Thank you for doing that with me. I know it's not easy. The second parable is one that we've heard a lot about. It's the parable of the mustard seed. Again, he said, "What shall we say the kingdom of God is like? Or what parable shall we use to describe it? It is like a mustard seed, which is the smallest of all the seeds on the earth. Yet when planted, it grows and becomes the largest of all garden plants, which such big branches that the birds can perch in its shade." So what is the kingdom of God like? It's like a mustard seed, a teeny little mustard seed. The kingdom of God starts small, both within us and outside of us. The kingdom of God can look like a lot of different things, but I think it looks small. It starts small. The temptation is to jump to the end, to try and have it all figured out. The temptation is to say, I just want a big old tree. How do I get to the tree? When I first started going through my grief and depression, that's what I wanted. I just wanted to be done. How do I get to the end of this? How do I just jump to the end? But the things worth knowing and experiencing are things worth going through, just like a parable. And I think just like the mustard seed, saying, listen, no, we need to start small. The great Scandinavian prophet, Elsa of Arendelle, says it like this. She says, do the next right thing. And when it comes to our sobriety, when it comes to our prayer life, when it comes to our purity, our holiness, our pursuit of God, start with the mustard seed and do the next right thing. You've never practiced silence before? Don't try to get to 10 minutes. Start with 1. You haven't prayed in a year? Just say a few words. You're not sober today? Start now. You're 5 seconds sober. Start with the mustard seed. Do the next right thing. What happens when we do this, when we can slowly begin to cultivate the kingdom inside of us, it becomes the avenue through which the kingdom of God around us can grow. One of the big reasons why we see so many pastors fall, ministries crumble, is because they didn't grow slowly like a tree. They build quickly and fast. They try to become a big tree, and there's no foundation, there's no root system, and the first hurricane that comes, it smacks them right over. You say, no, take your time. I'm working beneath the soil the whole time. There's no need to rush. It can start small. We have a prayer meeting on Wednesdays that about 9 people come to, 12 people come to. There's bigger ones in town, but it's okay. We can start small. Some of you are 30 seconds sober now. But what happens, and this is really important, that as this grows, the kingdom becomes something that brings shelter and shade to the people around us. The mustard seed turns into a tree where the birds can rest and lay their nest, where the birds get shade. So if we just jump out and try to build the kingdom and fix everything around us without taking time to do the next right thing inside of us, we will have a fragile kingdom around us that will crumble at the first sign of adversity. And this is why we all get so worked up and upset when political leaders let us down, and when we aren't there for our kids because, whatever the kingdoms we're trying to build for ourselves that we don't build slowly, it all crumbles. But the kingdom of God is going to grow no matter what. I don't know how. I don't know how those seeds come up out of the ground. It's a mystery, but the kingdom of God is a mystery. I'm going to close with this. It's a poem by this guy named Bradley Jersak. It says, "For me, the mustard seed is a word of hope and of resilience, a shield against despair and, oh, what's the use? Big movements dwindle. Big ideas become old ideas. Big bullies get fat and weather and get bald. Big empires rise and fall. The world's system does not last. But this little seed, buried in the soil, tiny and hidden, seemingly dead, will not be stopped. It sprouts, it grows, it becomes a plant, a great tree, flowering and bearing fruit, housing bugs and birds and little critters. When the last drop of the earth's oil has been consumed, when the sun no longer burns through the smog, and nothing grows in the irradiated soil, when we've used up all our weapons on hate and self-destruction, and live off-grid in Flintstones clothing, when zombies and dinosaurs roam the earth and disappear once again, when the last McDonald's church franchise gratefully shuts its doors, the seed abides. Whatever the kingdom is, wherever it's buried, it will remain and grow and become the greatest tree of all, giving shelter and shade and food that outlasts all our man-made dystopias. We can only really talk about it in parables and poems.
Thanks for tuning in to a message from the Sanctuary Church. For more information and media, go to our website at thesanctuarywestside.org or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube.